viewers, it's James Kalm, the guy on the bike. And today, we're coming into the Slag Gallery here at 56 Bogart Street. And we're going to take a little walkthrough of an exhibition of paintings by this gentleman, Rocco. By way of an introduction, I'll just say that Ben and I have known each other for probably about 12, 13 years now. And we met basically through the Brooklyn Rail.
I think so.
And you were the art editor there for 10 years, something like that? 7?
Probably
8?
Maybe 5, 6 years, yeah.
5 or 6 years.
But I was there for 10, just like you.
Slaving away in the salt mines of the Brooklyn Rail. Well, let's take a look at your show and talk about some of the paintings. First of all of these works are on Masonite, right?
Yeah.
And let's start out looking at this one. I think one of the interesting aspects is that now this is materials that were left over from you just did a gut rehab on a house in Bushwick here, and this is some of the stuff that you used to cover the floors with?
Yeah, so certain parts are the history of their use as floor covering, and then part of the painting is responding to that history. And
you spent, what, a couple of years doing the remodeling job?
Yeah, a year or so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So all this paint, is this oil that you're working with? Acrylic, oil, enamel?
That one's acrylic. Some of that paint under there is oil, but the orange here is acrylic. Pure orange.
Well, I think one of the other things that I was struck with is that, in a lot of ways, this exhibition is almost like an installation, and the reason I say that is because, for one thing, these paintings kind of exist almost like objects. They're not hung on the wall. They're very much kind of in that realm of physical objects rather than just a hunk of illusionary space that's on the wall. What do you think about your presentation there? Did you intentionally kind of think about that, or that just kind of happened as you started putting the show together?
Well, painting to me is primarily an experiential thing. So when you say objects in the world, that makes sense. They're things that you encounter and make your way through. I hope that there's images in them as well, but they certainly make sense to me as objects.
Now, each one of these are titled, or are they untitled?
No, they're all titled. This one's called Form 1A.
Form 1A?
No, that's interesting. For Monet.
Oh.
For Monet.
Same thing. Before Monet. Okay. And also, you've got some stuff collaged in here. This is a little circular mirror. Is that what that is?
Yeah, and if you look at it just right, this is where the Monet portrait is. You got to get your head right here, but you got a hat.
Oh, I
there,
see that.
and you got a beard.
Monet portrait. Okay. And all these pieces are about 8 feet tall?
They're all 8 feet tall.
That's the standard size 4 by 8 feet. Standard size piece of Masonite. Now, some of these have got a lot of paint on them, and some of them don't have. I mean, they've obviously got stuff that has been on there from the construction project, but this one, you've kind of let a lot of that show, except for these kind of 2 areas of chunkier paint. And is that some kind of medium that you've kind of glazed on over there?
That is a mound of house paint with some kind of golden medium run over the top with some pigment in it. And I think there might be a little, what do you call it, plaster weld in there too.
Plaster weld.
Yeah. That pink down there.
Well, one of the other things I was going to mention is that I know that there was a period of time, I guess this has been 6 or 7 years ago, when you worked with Dorothea Rockburn.
That's right.
And maybe some of the influence that was coming out of that was you got kind of geometric and hard-edged for a while, but most of this work, you're going back to a more gestural, brushy approach. You want to talk about kind of your transitions that you've gone through in the last couple of years?
Influence is funny. You think about Dorothea's early work, those chipboard pieces that she'd hang with the papers and install, which is work that I love, that really early stuff in the 70s. I helped her install one of those in MoMA once, and now you mention that, I never thought of it, but here I am working with chipboard. Right? So...
Also, why don't you tell us a little bit about your feelings? We were talking about using material like this that has already been used and sort of repurposing it. You want to talk a little bit about your feeling of why that's important for you?
Yeah, my belief is that the world is talking to us in terms of what it presents us with. It's an animate world. So when I'm given something by circumstance or by other people, it's a kind of responsibility I feel to pay attention to it. So these things are somehow, I feel, given to me. And it's kind of responsibility. It's involved.
What's the title of this piece?
That one's called Thrones.
Thrones. Now, is this oil paint or acrylic?
That one's oil.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Maybe a little acrylic and whites, but other than that, just
The other thing I was wondering is, do you think it would make a difference about the way that somebody might experience the paintings if these paintings were, say, hung up from the floor, if they weren't just propped against the wall, sort of presented in the kind of the standard gallery way?
Probably.
That
part was improvised during the installation. It was my intent bringing them and hanging them on the walls, but what happened was that as soon as we got them in here, moving them around, setting them up, we hung this piece up there. A couple things became apparent right away. The earthiness of the colors and the paintings grounded into the floor.
And this is kind of a rugged-looking floor, too. There's sort of a kind of a extended feel of, I don't know what you call it, abjectness.
That's a tricky word. But the other thing is that this is how I painted the paintings. As I mentioned to you, I lean them in my studio and I paint them at exactly this kind of angle. So those things came together and they stayed. I'm sure it would be different if they were on the wall, but how?
And also it would be different if you just had brand new clean pieces of Masonite or even just white canvases. If you were trying to get that same kind of a feeling, it probably wouldn't come out the same way.
These are in response to the Masonite. I can't make these paintings on canvas, and I have tried. This changes everything.
What's this one titled?
That's called Saturn Evolution.
Saturn Evolution.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the way that the corners and this hunk down here are kind of missing out of there, but you maintain the corners with that rebar.
I like the way you say
What do you call that? Chicago bars.
Is that what you call them? I call them furring channels.
Furring channels. So this is another 8x8 foot piece. What's this titled?
What's this one called? This one's called Archive.
And you've got some stuff scratched in here. Oh, you got some copper paint underneath there. I guess those are rubber gloves. I'm not going to say what else they might look like.
Yeah, they're not condoms.
I also like the little sheetrock screws that you've got stuck in there. Zippies. Well, if I was to ask you, who are you thinking about these days when you're making your paintings? If you could talk about maybe the legacies that you think about and where you see yourself fitting in, maybe art historically?
Look, that's a big question. I'm like de Kooning. I can't open a book without being influenced. And there's so many painters here that have influenced me, and I couldn't single one out to tell you
Changes day to day, huh?
Changes day to day, and I mean, I welcome all of it. I believe we're composites of our influences, and that they make us what we are. I'm not really afraid of that.
Finally, well, let's talk about this piece here you've got hanging here.
Yeah.
Now, I know this has got some kind of vents in there, so is this designed to hang outside somewhere in the wind, or?
This was precisely the events, and this was hung under a bridge in Kingston as part of the Kingston Biennial for 3 months.
Kingston, New York, or?
Yeah, Kingston, New York, yeah.
Did you get a chance to go fishing while you were out there?
No, man. But a lot of folks did while I was installing it, and I saw them. And then it made its way here, and hence the rope. This is how it was rigged to the bridge.
Okay, Ben, I got one last question.
Yeah.
You've been writing art criticism for many years now.
Yeah.
How do you think the art criticism has affected, changed, or maybe opened your views of art? You know, how does the art criticism and the painting come together?
Well, I come to know myself by writing. You know, I recognize my own views sometimes only when they're articulated. I'm one of those people. So it's been a clarifying process, and increasingly the whole thing can't really differentiate one part from another.
Did you spend a lot of time maybe studying the theory of aesthetics, or maybe reading some of the classic critics, you know, Greenberg and some of those guys, Michael Fried, or?
I did read them. I have read them, and they're part of a part of your unconscious and a part of your fingertips when you write. And just like your influences in painting are part of your influences in your fingers when you work. And ultimately you don't think about them, but they're there.
Okay, well, Ben Rocco, does the show have a title, Ben?
Saturn's Gates.
Saturn's Gates. Here at Slag Gallery, 56 Bogart Street in Bushwick. Thank you, Kate. Whoa, thank you.